Hi, everyone. My name is Emma Borkoff. I'm VP Marketing here at Remesh. Welcome to today's webinar, which is Remy in Action, Generative and Agentic AI for Modern Research. We have some fantastic speakers today. We have Patrick Hyland, who is our Managing Director of Employee Research, Rob Rocco, our Managing Director of Market Research, and Anthony Lamb, our Head of Product. And we also have a special guest who will be joining us later today. In terms of the agenda, so we are going to kick off just kind of setting the stage, kind of context setting a little bit more about integrating AI in research, what that looks like in practice, not just in theory, as well as the intro to Remy, the agentic AI that we're going to really kind of get hands-on with today, as well as perspectives from the field where we have our special guest joining us in a Q&A. So to kick things off, so for Q&A, feel free to put the questions in the chat as it comes. We are going to have a dedicated section at the end for it. But feel free to ask them like as they come up. You don't necessarily need to wait till the end to submit them. And yeah, and we also have a poll for everyone if we can just activate that. Okay, this is just to ask everyone a little bit about just how they would kind of like a self-assessment of their AI proficiency. If you feel like you're more on the advanced end or kind of dipping your toe in, just so we can kind of understand where everyone's at. Give everyone a minute to do that.
Really nice sized group today. I really appreciate everyone hopping on for a fun session.
I didn't have everyone. Okay, we can share our results real quick. Okay, cool. So it seems like the majority of people are in the intermediate range, like minimal intermediate, with a few folks who are on the more advanced end, which is great because I feel like our content is, I mean, has a wider range. So yeah, excited to jump into things, and I will toss things over to Patrick.
Thanks so much, Emma. Apologies for my voice. We had our opening Little League game last night, and I think that I was too enthusiastic as I was cheering on the team. But to echo Rob's point and Emma's welcome, we are delighted to have such a big and broad audience for today's discussion. What we want to do is really talk about the role of AI in research. And what I'm going to do over the next 5 to 10 minutes is start at the highest level and try to put things into a really broad perspective and contextualize AI and research and the trends that we're seeing. And then from there, we'll move into Rob's section where he will more specifically focus on what we're doing here at Remesh, particularly as it relates to Remy. Many of you may be using Remy, and then we'll show you what that looks like. And then, as Emma noted, we have a special guest, and I think we'll have a really lively discussion about how a practitioner is actually using AI in research current state. We will send this deck out. There's a lot of words, at least on some of my slides. So we'll send this out with a recording as well. And if you have questions, as Emma said, feel free to chat those in any time you'd like. So with that in mind, let me jump in and just set a context as we open up. We think here at Remesh, as we focus on AI and integrating AI into the market research and employee research that we do, that we really need to take a big, broad step back and do this in a very responsible, sensible, pragmatic, and ethical way. And so what we're going to do as we open this discussion is really take a socio-technical perspective and talk about the role that AI has as it relates to people and work and systems and culture and organizations. We really need to ground ourselves in this perspective. We will get into the details of AI and how that plays out at Remesh, but having this big, broad perspective we think is critical. The field of AI is advancing so quickly, so rapidly. As we pulled together this front section, there is an overwhelming amount of data, literature, evidence, both academic and practitioner, that we need to keep track of. And so what we're going to do today as we open this up is take a look and highlight some relevant literature that really contextualize the role of AI in research. We're also going to show you a quick exploratory study that we just conducted just a week ago with 14 researchers. I know it's a small n size, but the data is really fascinating in terms of how researchers are using AI in research. So we'll talk about that as well. Application, how we end up using AI at work becomes important in innovation. So this sense-making process we think is critical for us here at Remesh, and we think it's critical for this whole community, all of you that are joining us today. As you work with us, either as a partner or just simply as you remain in our community, we think it's really important that we're all having dialogues about the best practices that we're seeing in our own organizations and our own research, the ethical guidelines that we're establishing as we apply AI and research in our organizations. What are the boundary conditions? Where are the places and spaces where we really need to depend on the human in the loop? And then the emerging issues. So this is just a broad context to give you a sense of how we're thinking about AI. And with that context in mind, here's what we're seeing. Across fields, the use of AI in research is exploding. There is quite a bit of literature out there, but I found this study from Nature in 2025 to be quite revealing. What they found in this study, and it's hyperlinked here, is that the number of AI publications, and what they mean by that are publications that are either about AI or that are actually using AI methodologically, has nearly tripled over the last decade, increasing from about 300K to over 900,000 AI publications in 2024. Add in 2025, and you would expect this trend just to increase. That represents an average annual growth rate of almost 14%. And what they found in their study over the past decade is that this is happening across fields, but especially in engineering and life science. So we're seeing this. And in your own organizations, as we have our dialogue today, we'd love to hear what you're seeing in your own organization. But if it's speeding up in your organization, you are part of a larger trend. Now, there's good reason, I think, why this is the case, and that is because AI can dramatically improve the quality of research that we do. I was trained as an IO psychologist, as a social organizational psychologist, all the way back in the mid 90s. And I have to be honest, I am tech skeptical, and I was really against bringing AI into research until I started to use AI in my own research. And my opinions about the power of AI in the work that I do has changed dramatically. But over on the left, this is based on that small exploratory study that I mentioned before. It's a small study. It's only 14 respondents. So we need to keep that in mind. But we did ask these 14 respondents, in which areas do you feel AI has the strongest potential to improve aspects of your research? And what we heard back is that 8 out of 10 were talking about speed and efficiency, the ability to digest large and complex data sets, and to improve the quality of the writing and the communications that follow the research that we conducted, the translation, the communication. And down at the bottom, you see one of our respondents really talked about scale, speed, validation. AI is allowing me as a researcher to take on increasingly greater volumes of research. Now, those insights are consistent with what researchers, academics, practitioners in the field are actually discovering. Over on the right, 2 very interesting studies, both from 2025. And again, you can look these up, but Bermejo and colleagues in 2025 take a look at large language models and their ability to code against human coders. And what they found is those large language models outperformed human coders as they digested and coded essentially news from Spanish newspapers. Peter Thornburg in the same year, discovers the same thing when he takes a look at large language models and their ability to code essentially political chats versus human coders. Um, so what we're seeing is the speed, the efficiency, the ability to handle complex data. AI is doing a very good job. But of course, if we go to the next slide, Emma, we do need to be cautious. And we are here at Remesh very cautious as we think about the application of AI to the research and to our platform. There is good reason for us as researchers to be cautious. Over on the left, when we asked those 14 researchers in that conversation, what risks do you see with AI tools? You can see in the word cloud in the bottom left what you would expect: bias, hallucinations, black box effects. Really powerful quote. The most endorsed quote that we received in that study is really pointing out the challenges of human bias and how human bias become amplified potentially when we use AI. That insight, in fact, is very consistent with a brand new article from Chang and Grant in HBR. And what they talk about is often when we think about bias with AI, we're thinking about the fact that AI is ingesting and analyzing data that is biased. But what they point out is that it's not just that. That's not the only source of bias. We also need to be reflexive researchers and practitioners because our own bias, the prompts that we put in, the way that we explore the data with AI, our personal biases, both about the research subject and about AI, influence the questions we ask and the insights that we get back. So we need to be quite aware of the challenges and the pitfalls associated with integrating AI into research. So as I start to wrap up this context setting, just a couple more slides, and I'm going to hand it over to Rob. What we think is that if we are going to integrate AI into research, we need to take a very intentional strategy. And here at Remesh, we focus on how we can intentionally incorporate AI into the platform. And I'm sure in your own organizations, you are doing the same. If not, this is a really important opportunity. Over on the left, a really interesting article. It's a working paper from Fang and colleagues in 2025. And what they talk about is that while autonomy can unlock the potential of AI, it also, the more autonomy we provide to AI can also unleash the negative aspects and consequences associated. And so what they present over on the left is a model of increasing agency and a collaboration between human and AI. And down at the bottom on the left, as AI agents increasingly make their way out of the research labs and into platforms like our own, really carefully designing the relationship between the agent and the researcher becomes critical. A really compelling model if you're looking for a way to establish a framework in your organization is the model over on the right from 2025. Humbert and Latham talk about 4 different stages of monitoring AI, from verification to examination, cooperation, and transparency. And what they talk about is building trust between human researcher, the organizational system, and AI. And so that starts to become, I think, a compelling starting point. So to wrap this section up as I get ready to hand it off, I think what we're trying to argue in this first section is that the technology is moving fast. The way it's being applied and rolled out in research is moving fast. And we here at Remesh feel a real strong responsibility to keep up with that. And we're using this socio-technical approach and perspective. And we want to continue to engage in conversation with all of you as you are using AI in your research so that we're learning together. If you go to that next slide, Emma, what we really have intentionally designed our platform to do as it relates to AI is we want to unleash the power of AI. And
Hmm.
I think our product team, Anthony's going to show you Remy, our AI research agent, has just been powerful. For me as a social organizational psychologist, the insights that I can generate in short order are profound. The way I can explore the data is profound. But we really, as an organization, have designed Remy and the research platform and any and all the AI associated with it to have the researcher right in the middle of the loop. Whether we're designing discussion guides or AI is moderating remesh conversations, the analysis post conversation, the action planning, the reporting, all of those, we see the strong need for a high degree of collaboration between the researcher and the agent. And hopefully that is apparent as we introduce you to Remy in the rest of today's presentation. But that sets the context. And with that in mind, I want to hand it over to Rob and give you the opportunity just to put Remy itself in context.
Great. Thanks so much, Patrick. Hi, everyone. I'm Rob. I lead our market research business here at Remesh, and I've been here since 2019. Like, with that in mind, let me start with some important context as I get into my section here. Has been, and there will continue to be a lot of noise in the market around AI. Everyone is an AI company now. But what this slide shows is that Remesh didn't start with Gen AI. We started with a problem. The problem we aim to solve is how do you actually understand people in their own words at scale in real time? We were founded back in 2014, and from day one, we were building systems structured to analyze unstructured human language live and with large groups. So while the rest of the industry has been ramping up with AI in the past few years, we've been compounding experience for the last dozen years. I think that matters because in this business, the difference isn't just having AI, it's knowing how to apply it to what is often messy human data and organizing it in a way that actually drives good decisions. And that foundation is what allowed us to move incredibly fast when Gen AI hit. So when GPT-4 launched, we didn't need to figure out what to do or which engineers we were going to hire. We were ready. So within weeks, we shipped our first summarization capabilities, and we've been iterating rapidly ever since. A key point here is we didn't start then and there. We had already built quite a bit that lended itself really well to our preparedness to take it further. What had we already built? First, machine learning models that help to determine representativeness, systems that help cluster and organize and compress unstructured data, and importantly, as it pertains to our proprietary AI, predictive models to understand preferences at scale. So Gen AI wasn't the starting point for us. It instead was an accelerator to our existing cutting edge methodology and supporting infrastructure. And what that means for our customers is you're not getting a generic AI layer on top of surveys. You're instead getting a system that's been purpose built over years to turn conversations, to turn dialogue into insight faster and with way less manual work. And that evolution leads directly to what we're launching now and what we're going to go into kind of for the duration here of this conversation. And that's Remy. So Remy, look at Remy as your always on research partner. I think that framing is really important because this is not just adding another feature to the platform. Rather, Remy is an embedded AI agent in Remesh that helps you do lots of things. It helps you design better studies. It will help you analyze results instantaneously. And it importantly can help connect insights over time across every study you conduct within our ecosystem. In other words, it takes what used to be very manual, very time intensive, and separate workflows and turns it into something that just happens when you say so. So instead of waiting days or weeks for answers, you're interacting with your data in real time and drawing bright and defensible conclusions then and there. What really matters is how that does show up in practice. Patrick, Anthony, and myself talk to our customers all the time. And as we do, I want to walk you through really four things that we know that they care about. The first is efficiency, which kind of is the promise of AI in your insights process and just in general. Remy, as your agent, does the operational work. It'll build discussion guides, it can run analyses, it can surface themes. So teams, especially increasingly lean teams, are able to do significantly more with less resources. In my experience, part of the efficiency equation is the time it takes to learn and get comfortable with a new technology. That's one of the challenges we've historically faced with our users is that Remesh is really sophisticated and advanced technology. And that comes with a bit of an intimidation factor for new users. Um, Now with Remy, Remesh users don't have to learn what all the buttons do in our technology to get started. Just ask Remy. The next thing we know they care about our customers and prospects is trust. Trust in the that they're making the right decision based on the data that they've collected and analyzed in our platform. It's paramount. Every output that Remy asserts, every conclusion is grounded in your actual data with citations. So unlike generic AI tools, you're not guessing, you're not hoping that this isn't some sort of hallucination that's taking you down a totally different path. You can trace every conclusion, every insight, every recommendation back to real participant data. And not for nothing, but given our tenure and experience as an AI business, we're super buttoned up on compliance. I'm talking SOC 2, Type 2, and a data privacy officer that's sought after as a keynote speaker. Trust is paramount. I can't say it enough, and people can bet their reputation on Remesh. The third thing we know that comes up very frequently in our customer conversations is cross project, cross study intelligence. Okay. Collective intelligence over time, not just one study here, one study there. So Remy can work across all of the work that you do in our platform, be that a live iteration, asynchronous video, imported data, historical data, and you can actually connect those insights, not just generate them, but amass them and draw conclusions over time. Last, the fourth thing we know that's important is this technology, was this technology built for research and built for researchers first and foremost? And we're very confident in that here at Remesh. We know that we are. It isn't ChatGPT wrapped in a user interface. Remy is designed specifically for research workflows, has all the context, and it behaves like a seasoned researcher, not a general purpose assistant. So what you get is speed without sacrificing rigor, which is the trade-off most teams are forced to make today. And when you put that into a workflow, it looks something like this. We've simplified the entire process into three steps. Next slide, please, Emma. Build. So design your study, generate discussion guides. Used to be a blank page, before we got to where we are today, or a template and maybe some suggestions. Now Remy takes your ideas and has all the context on how to adapt it to a remesh, to our method, to upload it to the platform, review, and then you approve and you're ready to roll. Ask. This is kind of the gathering and live kind of intelligence process, interact with Remy while you're in field. Um, you know, run the project, give me updates, and soon, look forward to throwing it over to Anthony next, automating real-time probing. So Remy will be another very informed set of eyes that looks across all the responses coming in and even suggest, even automate follow-up questions in the here and now. And lastly, analyze, right? And that's where we started with Remy. Some of you who are attending today know that we've been talking about Remy for about 6 months now since we initially launched it in the analysis suite. And that just continues to get more and more useful as the technology advances. So instantly uncovering themes, summaries, key takeaways across studies. The key is here, it isn't linear. It should be continuous. So move from one question to an answer to the next question and continue on in perpetuity. It unlocks a longitudinal understanding of your stakeholders and your audiences and the ability to track changes over time, which is something to this point we haven't been able to do. And it's here now. So at a high level, it's not just about doing better research faster. It is, but it's about moving from project-based kind of thinking to more always-on intelligence, always-on decisions made with confidence. And that's really the shift we're enabling with Remy. It's also why you're seeing pressure on a lot of legacy platforms because the value is no longer around collecting data. It's now about turning it into confident decisions instantaneously. With that, I'm really delighted now to turn it over to Anthony Lamb to go deeper on Remy functionality and where we're headed as our head of product and the head chef in the kitchen. Over to you, Anthony.
Thank you so much, Rob. Can we actually go back a slide? I want to focus on this and give a little bit of an overview. Great to be with y'all. I am Anthony. I'm the head of product here at Remesh. I want to walk you through a little bit more in depth what Rob has just kind of talked about, Remy, the build, ask, analyze experience, and kind of unpack what we have on the platform today, where we're going this year. So let's kind of pull the timeline back. I mean, Rob did mention that Remesh was one of the first players in the research space that leveraged AI before generative AI. We're talking kind of traditional machine learning models dating back to 2014 or even prior to that. So we built Remy, as Rob said, around all of this compounding value of AI, machine learning models, clustering, which is also machine learning, natural language processing models. We've built it atop all of the tools that we've had in place for the last 12 or so years. So Remy is very cognizant, aware of all the methodologies that we've layered into the Remesh platform over the years. So that's one thing to start off with. Remy spans the full research lifecycle. Build your study, analyze your data, act on what you did find and did not find, all in one conversation. It's kind of like the big story here. We launched it, as Rob said, about 6 months ago, kind of mid to late October with the analyze function. And about 2 weeks ago, we just launched research planning and discussion guide creation on the build side. So we do have the build and analyze components kind of in place, and updates are coming. I'll kind of touch on those, including in that kind of middle part of the research journey, the asking. We'll tease out what live probes is coming, but again, as Rob said, you're live in flight with a study. We've actually gotten this request from customers over the years outside of Remy, but the ability to quickly summarize the hundreds, if not thousands, of inbound participant answers that are coming into a live open-ended question, get a quick summary so that researchers know how to pivot and carry that conversation forward. So bringing online summaries to then drive automated live probing is one of the things that we're exploring as a next step with Remy. So let's go to the next slide, and we'll start with build. As I mentioned, this rolled out about 2 weeks ago for every Remesh Remy user. This allows you to tell Remy what you are wanting to research, and it builds a complete research plan and discussion guide, including the research questions, the hypotheses, the right mix of open and closed-ended questions. It's ready to preview. We have a preview feature coming in just about a week and a half. And then it'll create files that you can just import right back in. What we want to do is also just roll it into a live or flex conversation. So you've done the planning, you've done the discussion guide, one-click conversion. That's not live yet, but that is coming. With this research plan, the discussion guide is all methodology grounded. We have neutral question design, balanced options. The question types are all interleaved properly. Remy will ask you, as the person who's building out this research plan, clarifying questions, present that plan for you for review before you actually kind of commit to it. So right now, in the build phase of things, it'll output to docx and Excel format. So you can shop that questionnaire around with stakeholders, get it into a perfect place, and then kind of bring it back in. Again, the live preview for this discussion guide is going live in about a week and a half, 2 weeks. The key thing to remember here with Build in Remy, not a standalone tool. It lives within the same chat stream that you're doing your analysis. So actually, if you've just run a study and you're analyzing and you discover, we didn't fully cover this topic or this theme that came up, we might need to run another study. You don't have to exit Remy. You don't have to leave. You can actually say, well, let's kind of pivot and let's create a research plan around this new area of discovery. So within the same thread, you can ask Remy, let's create a new study on the thing that we just talked about, and then go from there. So it's a seamless kind of end-to-end flow for building research plans. Remy, next slide. The bread and butter of kind of how Remy got its start, analysis. This is where we kind of landed in mid to late October. This works across live, flex, and video conversations. It bridges the what and the why, blending poll, rank, and open-ended questions. As Rob did mention, purpose-built around the research use case. Every answer here comes with verifiable sources where you can kind of ground everything that's being said. And we go very, very granular. We go down to the poll option distribution numbers. We go down to the individual participant audience response line items. So you can see exactly where everything came from. You can fully then trace all those answers back to other parts of the platform where you can see all that raw data in full context. So that is the analyze set of things. This stuff is on the platform for use today. My final slide, which is the next slide, will want to tease out what other things that we're doing with Remy this year. So in just about 2 weeks, we'll be launching a full interactive public demo for Remy. So you do not have to have an account with us. You can actually just land on our Remy page. You can request access. We'll ask you for your email. We'll send you a link in email for you to select one of 4 different data sets. There are 2 market research data sets. There are 2 employee engagement, employee research data sets that you can explore. You click that, you actually have up to, I think it's like 5 questions to do a full kind of analysis interactive test drive with real data and get actual real results analysis from us on those data sets. So we'll orient that data for you so you know exactly who was in it, what demographics were kind of captured, and then what topics were covered. So that is coming really, really soon. Stay tuned for getting your hands on that. 2 additional updates coming very, very soon, within a week to 2 weeks. On Build, mentioned that we're continuing work here. You'll be able to edit those discussion guides and research plans in an active way with the live preview before you actually fully commit. On the analyze side of things, pulling in crosstabs up to 3 or 4 demographics dimensions, so nested banners and stubs. In analysis, we're also rolling out charting, so bar charts, pie charts, scatter plots in the near future. So enhancing the analysis function as well. One of the big things we've heard about Remy is people want to share threads with internal stakeholders, external stakeholders. So we are investing some time to unlock thread sharing within Remy. And then later in the year, some bigger things, as I mentioned, live probes in the live Remesh experience, scanning all the participant answers coming into open-ended questions, giving you a quick summary, and then giving you the option to pull in 1 to 3 different automatically created live prep questions that are fully grounded on your discussion guide and what audience members are saying. The big piece that we're also exploring for the year beyond that, data integrations and connections. Pulling archival existing data. One thing that we have heard from lots of our users is, we're sitting on 3 to 5 years of archival data. Can Remy work with this to help me identify what I have in place, what I already know, and then identify gaps in our knowledge so that we actually are very focused on what we should be exploring and discovering for net new research. So pulling in data from SaaS providers or flat files that you might have just locally on your computer is something that we are also exploring with Remy. Ultimately, the vision here is to arm you with the best way to make the most effective decisions, coalescing everything that you have in place, whether that lives on Remesh today or somewhere else. With that, I'm going to pass things back on over to Patrick to walk us through some perspectives.
Great. Thank you, Anthony. It is at this point that I would like to invite our special guest who just appeared on screen, Stephen Haverlock, to join. Stephen, it is so nice to have you with us today.
Glad to be here, Patrick. Thanks for the opportunity.
Before we jump in, I just want to provide a bit of an intro about Stephen. I'm not going to say too much because I think Stephen wants to get into our conversation, but I do think it's important that everyone has some context as Stephen and I discuss this field study data, and more importantly, discuss Stephen's experience using AI in research. And so we're going to have, I think, a really interesting dialogue. But let me put Stephen in context. First of all, Stephen is the Associate Director of People Science at Bristol Myers Squibb. And based on what I've heard, Stephen, you can correct me, but I think a lot of what you're trying to do in this role is to really incorporate mixed method research and best practices and employee listening into everything that you're doing in the people science space at Bristol Myers Squibb. Is that a fair frame?
Yeah, absolutely. You should do all of my intros, Patrick. Thank you.
Before working at Bristol Myers Squibb, Stephen worked at Organon and Goldman Sachs. He was trained in data analytics and visualization at the Pratt Institute in New York City. His undergraduate degree, like mine, is not in the psychology space necessarily. It's what I would describe to be a liberal arts education. Does that, yeah?
Yeah, women's studies, HR management. Nice mix.
And I think that context is really interesting. All of this, where Stephen's education started, his career, his work to date, because I think that's going to inform this discussion. You've been using the Remesh platform for just about a year at this point. Is that right?
Yeah, about a year.
About a year. So let's jump in. What I want to do, Stephen, as we set this conversation up is I want to go back and reference that study that I talked about when I did my intro. For the audience, and use this as a platform for you and I to talk about your experience with AI, Remy, in your own research. Does that work?
Yeah, sounds great. Let's do it.
Wonderful. Okay, so a lot of words here. I'll zip through them. Over on the left, just for the audience, we conducted this field study using Remesh. By the way, the questions that I'm about to show you were generated by Remy. Right. So Anthony talked about Remy and its ability to generate conversation guides. This was generated by Remy, and it did a really wonderful job. It is a small study, right? We only had 14 respondents from a convenient sample, so we obviously need to keep that in mind. But I will tell you, the data came together quick, the study came together quick, and the insights that were generated by these 14 respondents, I found to be very powerful and useful. We had 5 open, 5 closed-ended questions. And for those of you who've used the Remesh platform, the ability to endorse, to upvote or downvote comments from your colleagues that are participating becomes a really interesting metric. Over on the right, the sample, 86% are working in industry, non-academic settings. 57% are employee researchers like myself and Stephen. 14% were in the market research space, 14 in the public opinion space, and 14 in the social sciences. In terms of the methodologies in this group of 14, about half are mixed method researchers like Stephen. 50% are more qual and interpretive. 36% were quantitative. Of course, this adds up to more than 100. You could select multiple responses here. And then we get a sense of, in this data, the extent to which people are using AI in their research. And you can see here, 36% are saying they're using it a lot. It really is a wide range. Half of respondents have less than 10 years of experience in the field, and half have more than 11. And so, Stephen, we talked about this before. I started grad school in 1996, which I guess is 30 years ago. So, and I have been working as an employee researcher, a lot of it survey research, starting in 2000, 2001, so about 25 years. So I'm going to fall into the side with more than 11 years of experience. You, based on your experience, are on the other side of this, right? As we look at this data together.
Yeah, representing the Gen Z research community.
So let's have this dialogue together from our, I think, points of view that are probably similar and different. And really, I would love to hear, as you look at this data with me, not just how you see the data, but also you had an opportunity to participate in this study
Yeah.
too. Is that right? Yep. So I'd love to hear how you, if you recall your responses, where you were. So with that in mind, so Emma, if you could take us to the next slide. All right. So 2 questions to set up here. Over on the left, we asked 14, including yourself, how would you currently describe your attitude toward using AI tools in your research workflow? If you'd like, Stephen, where were you in your response?
So I was in that somewhat positive group. I think it's really helped me a lot as I think about scaling and accelerating research and just being able to be more confident in my qualitative findings. The somewhat comes from just a general AI skepticism and wariness, making sure that we don't diminish the human-centered aspect of researching and reading through verbatim employee feedback and comments.
So that human in the loop idea is very important, I'm hearing,
Yeah,
for you. And it sounds like the human plays a really big role in that loop as you think about producing high quality research.
definitely. I think every step of the way, the human's important, but what they do can be enhanced and accelerated by using the right tools at the right time.
Has your attitude around AI in research evolved over the last 6 months, 12 months, couple of years?
Absolutely. I think a great example is when Anthony was demoing the analyze feature before, the ability to now, when you're using Gen AI to support or validate your analysis, having citations in real time, making you confident that there's no hallucinating. Here's an exact comment that we heard from our employees or research subjects. And hey, I can look at the data set on my end and be confident that it wasn't made up, it didn't come from nowhere. That's been, I think, really powerful and a game changer in increasing my own personal confidence, but being an evangelist and encouraging others to try out these tools and saying, hey, you can trust this, feel confident that it's looking at your data.
One quick question, and we'll take a look at the data on the right. Don't want to put you on the spot, but as a mixed method researcher, from a philosophy of science perspective, where do you kind of place yourself as you think about research and what makes for good research?
Yeah, it's a good question. So my training, Patrick mentioned, I went to Pratt. I was really focused on user experience design and research. So all about very applied in the moment, quick research, often about tech experiences, but my applied work experience has been all about employees. So I tend to stay really focused on kind of what's actionable and both looking at existing theoretical models, but also saying just like, hey, let's use plain speak. What do people care about and what are we going to do next? There's a lot of powerful research that I think sometimes doesn't hit the mark of where are we going with this, but when I do my research, I really like to ground myself in like, what does this mean to the people that I'm researching and talking about? Why are we here and what can we do next?
Got it. So pragmatism seems to be at the forefront
Yeah,
of your, yeah, okay.
pragmatism.
Yep. It's interesting because over on the left, before starting to dabble with AI, was very skeptical. And I heard some of that skepticism as you approached AI and research. Since using it, as I mentioned before, I've become really very positive. And I think for me, my philosophy of science has evolved. When I started grad school at Teachers College in New York, which is a social org program, I was trained without really knowing it in a very positivistic way, even though the program's very applied. And I think that I always thought that good IO research is heavily empirical, heavily rigorous, and it should be. I definitely agree with that as a foundation. But I think I am much more aligned with what I heard your philosophy of science is this pragmatism. What at the end of the day does the research do for the organization and the system to move it ahead? And what I find as I work with AI is its ability to help me generate insights that are warrantable is powerful and gets me back to my client faster for faster change. Does that resonate at all with you?
Absolutely. I think the point about getting back to the client more quickly is really critical. Just our ability to keep their attention. And very recently, I had a client who was very positively surprised that a couple of days after the session was done, we were doing a full readout of results, action items, next step. They were like, "Did you stay up all night doing this?" And it was really great to be able to leverage both people on my team, but also the features embedded within Ramesh, the platform, as well as Remy to accelerate that research process and do an initial readout of results in like half the time that it would have taken previously.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That speed to insight. I agree. I agree. And it brings back the memories of back in the day, how long it used to take to analyze open-ended data. What catches your eye over on the right? When you think about AI and the role that it plays in your current research process, either based on the content coding or just what you're doing, what do you do with AI?
Yeah, so I would say my initial use case was really around the data analysis, coding and modeling, summarization, just thinking sense making, really. Like, how do I understand this large volume of data that's in front of me? And what I do from there. But more recently, I've shifted to the literature search and source retrieval. So, as Patrick mentioned, I'm not an IO psychologist by trade. I have great respect for the field and the research done, but that's simply just not my background. I think it's really important, though, to have those theoretical frameworks in place and just ground my work in the decades of literature that already exists. So, it's been very helpful in finding, like, hey, this is the subject I'm looking at. What are the relevant models I can consider? Give me the source material, and I can quickly educate myself on like, okay, make sure I'm thinking like an IO psychologist. And sometimes when I'm not in that domain, make sure I'm thinking like a market researcher, UX researcher, just using AI to help point me towards the relevant rather, theoretical contexts for doing my research.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What don't you do with AI?
What don't I do right now? I'd say presentation support. I'm still not there yet. Now, granted, I went to Pratt for grad school, so the the presentation support isn't necessarily something I need help with now. I'm sure in the future I've seen some great things in the Figma and design world with Gen AI, but at least at this point, I'm not using it to prepare my research reports or data visualizations.
Got it. Got it. Let's go to the next slide and take a look at the next set of data. Um, Benefits and risks. Here's what we heard back from our small sample study. And over on the left, as I look at it, a lot of it has to do with speed and efficiency. And this really goes back to where Rob was talking about the platform overall. But here, people talking about the power of AI in research. And then over on the right, concerns about over-reliance, dependency, loss of critical thinking, bias, black box opacity. What do you think are the biggest potential benefits and risks as you think about AI in your own research?
Yeah, so and as the data is showing, like speed and time savings, efficiency is the obvious benefit, but I really value the assumption checking aspect. I think there's sometimes many of us have been in situations where I'm a research team of one. Now I'm lucky to have a team with multiple researchers available, but you don't always have that second person available to kind of cross-validate, check your assumptions. I really like kind of doing my own independent review, code a sample of responses, then saying like, hey, Remy, like, what do you take away from this? What are the key points? What are the themes that you've come up with? And then seeing where are we aligned? Where did we already say the same thing that can give me an additional degree of confidence? And where are we not aligned? And is it just that I disagree with the AI, or did it point out blind spots that inevitably will exist for all of us due to our biases and our backgrounds?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that is a really powerful example. This ability to use AI and use Remy in this situation to get a sense of how you interpret data, because I've done this, and how I don't interpret data and other ways of interpreting data, right? I find to be fascinating. And it is amazing how quickly we can do that now with the power of AI.
Definitely. And I'd say in terms of risks, that last one really stands out to me and resonates. The loss of nuance and lower quality research. I think with these tools that accelerate our speed to insights, our ability to turn something around quickly, we need to really be mindful of like, hey, there's still a lot of value in, sifting for minutes, hours, getting really comfortable qualitatively with what are people trying to say and looking beyond a summary, but hearing their words, understanding our users, our personas, like it's really important to maintain that human in the loop element and make sure that doesn't get lost.
Plus all the internal organizational wisdom that you have
Exactly.
working in the system. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Got it. Got it. So we have just a couple minutes left, and we may have some Q&A from the audience at the end, but let's go to the next slide. Just a couple more. How do you feel AI use is most likely to affect research quality and integrity in your field over the next few years? What we see in this small sample is that the majority, or the plurality, 46%, are saying balance between a mix of positive and negative. Do you remember where you were on this scale?
I was either mostly positive overall or more positive than negative, but I don't know. I tend to be a realistic optimist, I call it, but I think it's definitely helping us to check our blind spots. And realistically, like not everyone who's tasked with doing research will always have the benefit of formal research training. And I think if these skills can help, these tools rather, can help people to upskill more quickly or give them good heuristics, rule of thumb, best practices for doing research, it's the average research quality, I think, will be on the up and up.
Yeah, I was really pleased to see these results. I ended up being on the high end of this scale, but I was happy to see when talking to this community that it is pretty balanced. And there is this understanding that, look, AI can make things better as we do research, but we have to be cautious. And I think that gets back to the community of practice that becomes so powerful as we all jump into this brave new world of AI and research. Being able to understand where it's helping and what the risks are really become important, and being in dialogue with other researchers about those benefits and risks becomes important. Anything over on the right that catches your eye in terms of increasing confidence in the use of AI tools? I thought this is where I started to get some really powerful insights from this small study, but important study. Field-wide or professional society standards, independent validation, and benchmarking ended up being two confidence builders for this group. Anything on this list that would build your confidence?
I'd say the independent validation and benchmarking really stood out to me. I think of there's a technologist, Meredith Broussard. She writes a lot about black box audits and AI audits and just the ability to understand like, hey, what do experts in responsible AI and research think about some of these tools? Do they think it's working effectively and doing what we need it to? Can we trust it? I think like the more and more we have independent third parties giving their own rating and just more guidance so that we as a research community can feel confident. And peer examples and case studies as well. I think us connecting as practitioners, even Patrick, the conversations you and I have, just talking about best practices for using Remy or other AI tools outside of Ramesh, that's really valuable to understand what others are doing and get type of objective guidance on best practices.
I agree. I find that fascinating to say, look, this is what I did, and this is what I learned, and this is what I saw. And then to hear what other researchers like yourself are doing, it really expands what is possible. And also, same token, here are some problems I saw. Here are some issues I was concerned about. Here are some things to watch out for, I think becomes really important. I think we just have one or two more and then we'll start to wrap up. But really, for me, Stephen, this has been a fascinating discussion. Um, Hopefully the same for you. I know it has been for our audience. Over the next few years, what role do you think AI will play in your field or your own research? What do you think as you project out over, let's say, the next 6 months, 12 months, or longer?
Yeah, I'm really excited about, and Anthony previewed this, but this idea of like in the moment probing and follow up that historically just has been impossible to do at scale in more of these like digital mediums. Like the beauty of the in-depth interview or the focus group has always been that you can pivot on the fly if needed. You can talk to users, employees, and kind of change your mind, change your focus if something pops up. But to be able to do that within tools at scale, and for someone who's not like a highly skilled facilitator to at least have an opportunity to do that, I think that's going to be a huge differentiator for how we think about structuring research and just challenging the limits of like what can we learn from a survey or a focus group or an interview. It's going to really change kind of what all of the methods offer and how we deploy them.
Yeah. The democratization of the process is really powerful.
Yeah.
I heard that in what you're saying. I know we're running out of time, but we did a conversation internally at Remesh. We then sent out the Remesh link post conversation, and we allowed everyone to analyze that data with Remy or through their own eyes. And it was fascinating because you are starting to allow multiple people to analyze data collectively rather than relying on the expert to be the one source of interpretation. So this democratization, powerful. Let's go to the last slide, and then we're running out of time. This is a lot to read. We're not going to read through it, but we'll send this out to everybody. The upshot of this is this was produced by Remy, right? So essentially, I asked the question based on participant feedback, what should organizations do to help researchers responsibly integrate AI into their research practices? And Remy was able to take all that great content from our 14 respondents and researchers, including yourself, and put together this output, which I think really, for me, provided quite a bit of wisdom and insight. I know it's a lot to take in at once, but anything here quickly that Stephen caught your eye before we wrap up?
What I'd really call out to those watching the webinar is just the power of both having the clear themes and the citations right there. If this were the live interface, we could click on it and see exactly what employees wrote, and being able to direct the knowledge and having one or multiple knowledge sources to say like, hey, we've talked to employees or users about all of these things. Let's look across these 5 studies and see like what do they have to say? What should we do? It's just more than you or I as individuals could do instantly, but with the assistance of technology, we can develop a much more compelling output.
I love it. I love it. That takes us to the top of the hour. Stephen, we appreciate you being on our panel today, on our discussion, and sharing your personal experience. Thank you so much. I'm going to hand it back to Emma as we wrap up. And I know that we're losing some people at the top of the hour. I think we're all happy to stay on for a bit more if there are questions. But Emma, let me turn things back over to you.
Great. Thanks everyone. That was fantastic. Yeah, so now is the time. I know we're right at the end, but you can submit your questions now. I have a few actually. This one's for Steven. It's how do you validate the AI tools that you're going to use? Like, do you have a process and how do you kind of, yeah, well, I guess what does that look like?
Yeah, for me right now, I'd say my validation tends to go back to like, can I draw a connection between the inputs that I'm providing to my AI tool, whether it's prompts or actual data, and then can I see how it got to its output, either through further querying or just looking at what the output is and saying, okay, how did you get here from what I gave you? So really that transparency of the workflow and the reduction of kind of black box approaches to processing insights. That's what I currently do.
Great. I have another question. This one's also directed at Stephen, but I think Patrick and anyone else might be able to answer as well. Can you give me a real life example of a workflow that you're using that now incorporates AI?
Yeah, so I spoke to this a bit during one of the questions that Patrick asked me, but I'd say that cross-validation of me still going through my independent like coding practice of all of the qualitative feedback and comments, and then running the same question through Remy, the example I'm thinking of, I had two similar studies with slightly different populations, and me and Patrick were talking through, okay, what's the same about these two studies and the insights that we took away, and where do they diverge, and just what was a cool exercise was to in real time, I kind of had my slide with how I called out the differences, prompted Remy with the same exact question, and got a very similar answer. It gave me a few other ideas to consider, but I thought that was a great real-time example of just showing how like multi-source querying and usage of Remy and other research tools can be really powerful in practice.
That's awesome. Thanks for that example. Last question is just about Remy. Is it included in all remesh packages or is it an add-on?
I'll be happy to take that. It is included in it is one and the same with our product. So if you're a Remesh user, you have access to Remy. That's how we roll.
Great. Any final words, Rob, if you want to wrap us up maybe real quick?
Yeah, if so for current users, it's there. If you need help getting acclimated to it, um, get with our team on that. If you've never used it and you want to see it, you want to get your hands on it, we have some details here. I think on the thank you slide, Emma, if you want to go to that
Oh,
real
yeah, I have
quick.
a thank you slide.
Here we are. We have our externally facing simulation is there, remesh.ai/Remy, or request a demo, and we'll get you
Great.
started.
Yeah. So yeah, if, feel free to go to remesh.ai/Remy to learn more about Remy, and you can also sign up for early access to the demo, which you won't need to pay for Remesh. You won't really need anything. We'll just have that so you can actually play with real life data sets. Or you can reach out to us with any questions, and we'll be sending a follow-up recording. Yeah. And thanks so much for everyone. It was a really great conversation. I hope everyone learned a little something today.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Have a great
everyone.
day. Take care.